Well, welcome everyone. This is your super sarcastic guide from Budapest, Hungary. Thank you very much for Susan for joining. Welcome, Kate, Tish. And well, it's nice to see there is quite some action in the comment section. Well, I'm happy to tell you that we are the only ones on board. We have the entire boat to ourselves. And well, we just have an amazing sunset for, to treat ourselves. The sun is just about to duck behind the Buda Castle hill. We'll have absolutely dramatic, wonderful, magnificent cloud cover for our cruise today. So, well, make sure that if you can, take plenty of screenshots because you are in for a treat. Well, I would like to remind you that since I'm streaming through YouTube, there is a bit of a delay between you hitting enter on your comment and me seeing it. But feel free to drop your questions in the comment section, and I will do my best to answer them right away. Should I fail to know the answer, I'll do a follow-up in the Captivating Hungary Through Adam's Eyes Facebook group, where you are more than welcome to join. So, as I've mentioned, we are the only ones on board, which means that I can change sides whenever we need to. So I can show you one of the 100 wonders of the modern world in one of its best, while the House of Parliament is bathing in the late afternoon warm colors, providing this golden touch to the facade of the House of Parliament building. Welcome, Reza. Welcome, Janice. Thank you very much for all of you for joining, and welcome, Natalie, as well. So those of you who haven't toured in Budapest before, the Hungarian capital city is cut into two by the river Danube that we are cruising along today. So this side would be Pest, and the other side is Buda. Well, we are going to change between the sides quite often so that you can not just see the House of Parliament in the golden hour, but you can also enjoy the sunset. Indeed, Susan, perfect conditions. I was sending emails to niceweather@wishes.com, and today, well, my email did not end up in the spam folder for my eyes treat, and for your eyes is a treat as well. And well, today we are cruising on the public transit company's scheduled boat, scheduled cruise. So we are going to stop here and there. The entire cruise is scheduled to last about 40-45 minutes, depending whether if we are stopping and dropping anchor at the designated ports, or we are just slowing down and moving on. The latest will be back to the House of Parliament building by 4:45 p.m. Central European time. The temperature, the outdoor temperature right now is about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. So perfect conditions as Susan just mentioned it. And we have a bit of a cloud cover, and we have just a teeny tiny breeze, making sure that the sunset will be colorful. To my experience, should we get a little breeze, the colors tend to pop. We are circling back a little bit to the Pest side as well, which takes up two-thirds of the Hungarian capital cities is territory, and two-thirds of the population also happens to live on the Pest side, which would be two-thirds of 1.7 million people. Pest and Buda, and the north side of Buda, the third city, the forgotten third city, were merged into one on the 17th of November 1873. But this 152 years weren't enough for us to consider three cities to be united. So there's still quite a bit of a rivalry between the three cities. And as you can see, the weather is so great due to the sunset. A lot of people were lured out to the streets, and just like we do, they also enjoy the sunset. Well, the building that occupies our frame at the moment happens to be the so-called White House. It was a party building built during the time of socialism, communism, to accommodate the party members' offices. And well, Susan, you're absolutely right. For the last day of January, this is just perfect weather. So although I'm a Hungarian, and you may know that Hungarians master the trade of complaining, today I cannot complain about the weather conditions, because it's just perfect. Now, the first bridge that has been built in modern-day Budapest is the Margaret Bridge. It was designed by a French architect who happened to team up with Eiffel in the Eiffel Towers project as well. And Margaret Bridge was designed also by a French, built by a French construction company as well. And at the very beginning, the bridge did not feature a span to Margaret Island that will come into the view rather soon. So this bridge was only built, back in the early 1900s. Between the 1880s and the 1900s, today's Margaret Island was only to be reached by boats. At the time when the plan's been accepted to build the second permanent crossing point between Buda and Pest, within the boundaries of city of Budapest, Margaret Island didn't exist in the same leaf-shaped version as it looks like today. It was still three separate islands. Today's Margaret Island, the Painter's Island, and the Bathing Island. Well, the island back then, the first joint venture was called Palatinus, named after the deputy king, whose family actually merged the Painter's Island, the Bathing Island, and the Rabbit's Island together in order to bring the island a little bit closer to Margaret Bridge. Today, Margaret Bridge features 2 lanes in each direction and a steel car track as well. There's a bicycle path, 2-lane bicycle path on the north side of it, and there is a sidewalk on both the south side of it and the northern side as well. For those of you who are planning an in-person visit to the Hungarian capital city, it might be important for you to know every single bridge in Budapest spanning over the main riverbed can be crossed on foot as well, regardless whether it's a railway bridge or a normal bridge open for cars, street cars, and cyclists. You can also see a lot of people on Margaret Island jogging, running. Well, it is very common, and it's basically one of the most popular running track to well, burn some calories in Budapest. The running track that goes around Margaret Island is 5.2 kilometers long, and well, for an experienced runner, for an experienced jogger, it takes about 25 to 30 minutes to run a full circle. Well, it may not seem to be a common sense, but here the general rule is that runners go anti-clockwise, and those who do not follow the standard practice may find themselves in trouble. Natalie, indeed, today we have the best clouds ever. And as you can see, we arrived to the first scheduled stop of our cruise. We'll see whether if those three guys at the closest bench are boarding, or we continue our cruise as a private cruise. We'll see. Fingers crossed that, well, we will continue to be the only passengers on board. Welcome, Astrid. Indeed, today we have magical views. Well, let me know in the comment section. You also cross your fingers that no one else will board, and we will continue the cruise as a private cruise. If you happen to be an introvert and you don't like crowds, then likely the best cruise you can take in Budapest is the public transit company's scheduled cruise. Well, the neighborhood that you can see now happens to be known as Little Tel Aviv, or the New Jewish Quarter. I mentioned that the island was owned by the Deputy King's family, by the Penedines family, hence the name of the bathhouse as well, on the island Palatinus. Well, the city of Budapest wanted the island to become public, but it was considered to be impolite or even outrageous to offer a deal to offer money to the Deputy King's family for the island. But Hungarians are designed to find the loopholes. We are said to be the people who will enter a revolving door behind you, but we will exit in front of you. So the city of Budapest figured that if they cannot directly purchase the island from the Deputy King's family, because it's not a politically correct thing to do, there is another way that is open to the city, and the other way is a real estate exchange. So they offered this part of the city to the Deputy King's family, so they could develop apartment houses, which are now co-ops. And in return, the city only asked for the island. Well, the Deputy King's family, Palatinus, the Penedines family, considered it as a good deal. So the exchange was made, and then the Deputy King's family developed these apartment houses that till present day we call the Palatinus houses. And well, The Palatinus houses were built by the deputy king's his family's construction company. So basically, it was an in-house project. Not so far from the neighborhood, which is dominated by Bauhaus. These are one of the nicest Bauhaus buildings that the city of Budapest has to offer. And I'm pretty certain that this part of the city has never been shown to you as part of a virtual tour since 2020 that I've been streaming from the streets of Budapest or from the river. Um, so, well, something new for the returning viewers as well. And to the north of the church, we have a Soviet blockhouse neighborhood as well, which is quite typical in Budapest. 1/3 of the city's population happens to live in these Soviet blockhouse neighborhoods, which are not necessarily visually appealing, especially not on a day when the cloud cover is so magnificent and the sunset is so beautiful. So we rather focus our attention towards the south. We can see the Margaret Bridge and the dome of the House of Parliament also comes into play. And we are circling back to the joggers. And since we are the only ones on board, we are switching sides from west to east. And we will face ahead. And well, if you wouldn't mind, then we are going to go to the front of our boat. Since we are the only ones, we can occupy the best seats. And since we are the only ones, we will not even disturb the captain's view. Now, when it comes to excellent views, this is what I mean. Give me a thumbs up if you also fancy this VIP treat. And well, there is something I couldn't show you during the previous years because it was installed only in 2024. We have a new barbecue spot in Budapest at the southernmost tip of the Margaret Island, just below the street fitness corner. We have a bunch of concrete benches or, well, places where we can sit, and there is also a barrel where we can set fire and do our barbecues. This was a crowd-funded project organized by one of the most efficient NGOs of Budapest, VAJO, in order to provide more places, more venues for the locals to meet outdoors and to socialize outdoors. So, dramatic clouds on the western horizon and also on the southern horizon as well. On the left-hand side of the frame, the House of Parliament building rules the skyline. In the middle, you can see the chain bridge in the distance and the Buda Castle quarter. We are heading towards the twin towers of the St. Anne's Church. That happens to be one of the few Baroque churches in Budapest, one of the few survivors of the 1800s floods that shaped Budapest, greatly shaped Budapest. Susan says it's pretty relaxing. Indeed, indeed. Cynthia says the skies are pretty. Well, we are ridiculously lucky today. Anyways, so the public transportation companies scheduled, river cruise services was born less than 15 years ago. The idea was to provide a hassle-free commuting option between the northern residential suburbs of Budapest and the southern commercial or office neighborhoods. The idea was that regardless of the boats not being able to run with high speed due to zero traffic jams on the river, it can be a faster commuting option for many than streetcars, suburban train, or buses. And believe it or not, although this is a public transit boat, where the monthly tickets are not available any longer, so I had to buy an extra ticket for the cruise. But it also features a bar. So the idea was that you cannot just commute in a hassle-free way from north to south or the other way around, but you can also get your morning coffee on board. You can start working on board, the first steps towards home office. And on the way back home, you can have your glass of spritzer wine or beer on your way home. And by the time you arrive home, well, you will have no stress or whatsoever, because not just, let me see, Susan believes that it's a relaxing way moving around in the city, but even the public transit company had the same concept. So as you can see, there are 0 passengers. So we are skipping another stop. And we continue cruising alone. So in the middle of our frame, the twin towers of the St. Anne's Church show up. The Church of the Maltese to the north, and the inner city Reformed Church is on the left-hand side of our frame. And although we skipped one stop, we are not skipping a third one. So we'll see whether if there is anyone who would fancy to join our bandwagon. In the meantime, while we are closing in on our pier, I can show you the iconic chain bridge in the distance. So a little tip for all of you: if you are considering an in-person visit to the city of Budapest, you can find several different options to do a cruise in Budapest. Well, the most budget option happens to be with the mass transit company. It costs less than 10 euros for a single ticket for the cruise that we've just joined today. Oh, and the House of Parliament's building dome is nicely lit by the last sun rays. So we circle our attention to the east. Now, if you haven't done a tour with me before, you might want to know, or it might be interesting for you, or might be new information for you, that the House of Parliament building in Budapest happens to be the third largest parliament building in the world, after the one in Buenos Aires and after the one in London. Now, the Hungarians tend to show off. They try to use every opportunity to prove the point that Hungarians deserve a chair at the big boys table. So we show off with our public buildings. So we tend to say that the House of Parliament building in Budapest is not the third largest one in the world, but the largest one in the European Union. The House of Parliament building was built following the best practices of the Westminster in London, and that's why the architectural style is also quite similar to the one in London, Gothic revival, Neo-Gothic or Gothic revival. Welcome, welcome, Valkyrie. Thank you very much for boarding the cruise with the others. To the north, we have the House of Lords, and towards us, we have the House of Commons. Now, the House of Lords and the House of Commons happens to look pretty similar from the inside. Ooh, and we may have 2 new passengers boarding. But no, we continue enjoying a private cruise. Well, the dome of the House of Parliament building happens to be 96 meters high until December 2023. This was the highest building in Hungary, together with the St. Stephen's Basilica. But in 2023, we opened the first high-rise that nearly became a skyscraper to the general public. It almost became a skyscraper. It's only 7 meters short to be officially labeled a skyscraper. Now, the House of Parliament building accommodates today the House of Representatives. The House of Lords has been shut down in 1949 when the Hungarian Communist Party took over the political leadership. The House of Lords, although it has been shut down in 1949, still features blue-colored carpet, which aims to communicate it to the world that the House of Lords is designed to represent the blue-blooded people. The House of Commons, which is the one closer to us, where I'm pointing my finger at, still features a red-colored carpet. In the domed hall, we keep the Hungarian Holy Crown that was brought to the House of Parliament only in 2002. Between 1978 and 2002, it was hosted by the National Museum. Between 1945 and 1978, the Hungarian Holy Crown was kept in Fort Knox in the United States. And, President Carter was the one who decided that in 1978 it was safe enough for the Holy Crown to return to Hungary. It is said that the nicest section of the left and the right bank of the Danube within the boundaries of Budapest is between the House of Parliament and the Cambridge on the Pest side, because most of the buildings that are by the river survived the Second World War in a sort of miraculous fashion. the city of Budapest was heavily bombarded during the Second World War. 51% of all the buildings were damaged. And, well, that brings us to astronomical damage or loss of apartments. 75% of all the apartments in Budapest were damaged during the Second World War. Well, we are pointing the attention, our attention to the Buda Castle quarter, because there are some new buildings, like the formal Red Cross headquarters, which during the 1930s was the Department of Foreign Affairs. The Department of Foreign Affairs was actually deconstructed in 1946, although the damages of the building would suggest otherwise, but it was a political decision that the building had to go, and it was rebuilt by present-day political leadership. So the silhouette of the building is back, and now they are working on the inside of the former Red Cross headquarters. Those of you who toured in Budapest extensively may have noticed that the silhouette of the former Royal Palace also changed. Well, Wing A has been deconstructed almost entirely, except the eastern facade, which, according to the war researchers, still shows the late 1800s, early 1900s as construction materials, while the other three external walls being built after the Second World War. So, as part of a cancel culture, to put it this way, those walls built during the socialist or communist times being deconstructed. So in the next 5 to 10 years, there is going to be lots of construction works up on the Buda Castle hill. Present-day Buda Castle, which is the former royal palace, still accommodates the National Gallery. The Budapest History Museum's is Buda Castle wing and the National Library. Now, the word on the street is that the National Library, the Budapest History Museum, and the National Gallery as well will have to leave the former royal palace, as multiple rooms of the pre-Second World War's royal palace will be rebuilt as it looked like prior to the Second World War in the next 5 to 15 years. So expect the skyline of Budapest to be dotted with cranes. And well, in the middle of our frame, under the dramatic clouds, we have the iconic chain bridge. Happens to be the second permanent bridge to be built along the river Danube, providing a permanent connection between the left and the right bank. That translates to Buda and Pest, the Hungarian capital city. The chain bridge has been designed by Thierry Clark, the same architect and engineer who designed the Marlow chain bridge as well. Those of you who are members of the Captivating Hungary Through Adam's Eyes Facebook group, you could see a bunch of pictures of Thierry Clark's other bridge, the Marlow chain bridge, that's said to look so similar to our chain bridge that we often say that the Budapest chain bridge and the Marlow chain bridges are twin sisters from the same father but from different mothers. The architect and engineer of the chain bridge was Thierry Clark. He was such a well-known architect that he was commissioned to deliver a lot of projects at the same time. So he had to have an on-site project manager who could oversee the 7-year-long construction work day after day. And he was another Clark, Adam Clark. They were not related, actually. Thierry Clark was Bristol born, and Adam Clark was a Scottish engineer. Tina's question, when did Budapest became a single city? On the 17th of November, 1873, so 152 years ago. And there is a third city, Óbuda, or North Buda. Well, 3 bridges to the north from here, which is also part of this joint venture, but we tend to forget about Óbuda all the time. So you can imagine how troubled identity those have who happen to live in the 3rd district of Budapest in Óbuda. Well, the pier that we are anchored to at the moment was originally designed for Queen Elizabeth. You may have heard about her. Her nickname is Sissy. There is a Netflix series as well about her life, and the first movie about Sissy's life was also still very famous, where Sissy was played by Ronnie Schneider. So this pier was designated for the Queen. Her steamboat could drop anchor here, and the Castle Bazaar and the Castle Gardens, which happens to be the upper part of the riverside structure, were designed for Sissy's eyes. So when her steamboat drops anchor here, the first thing she would see from Buda would be equally visually appealing as she was. So the ramps as well were designed for her, and the garden as well, the castle gardens, where we thought she could find some peace and she could keep a few steps distance from the hustle and bustle of the royal court. So once again, the pier that has been designed for the Queen back in the 1870s. And well, as we are heading towards the west side of the Hungarian capital city, we got an amazing view of the chain bridge. Well, the building which windows are glowing in the last sunshine, last sun rays of the setting sun happens to be the Redu, built, sponsored by the same philanthrope family that happens to partially sponsor the construction of the chain bridge that we'll talk about later on. The Redu was built to be a gentleman's club, sort of like an English club, where one could gamble, one could talk shop, and one could talk about politics as well. It was only available for the privileged, for blue-blooded people. It was destroyed first in 1849 to be rebuilt later on. Be destroyed again during the Second World War, being rebuilt in a not so proper fashion during the time of socialism and communism, so that during the early 2010s it received its pre-Second World War facade back. Welcome, welcome, friend. Thank you very much for offering help with putting this magical sunset cruise in the shared calendar. And when I said magical, I was not exaggerating at all. Because today we just have perfect weather. So, as you can see, since this is a sort of public transit boat, we are circling from one bank of the river to another. This also allows us to have a better view, not just the Buda Castle hill, but this way we also have an excellent view of the Gellert or the Gellert hill. There, the Statue of Liberty lost a great part of its of her scaffolding. So her cosmetic procedure is about to come to an end, and she will be able to welcome visitors once again. So as the Citadel, that concrete facility on the hilltop, which is being converted into a museum. Just don't ask me what type of museum, because we still don't know. But the bottom line is that latest 2026, the Gellert Hills plateau will be open to the general public once again. The Statue of Liberty, that female figure holding a piece of feather in her hands, ironically has been erected by the Soviet Army in 1947, and it was called the Statue of Liberation. During the 1990s, we figured that the transition is not just a political transition, but the transition comes in many layers, out of which one is arts. And as part of a sort of politically correct wave of cancel culture, we offered a deal to the Russian Federation to pick one statue out of the 40-something they've erected in various corners of Budapest. We hoped that they're going to pick the Statue of Liberation to keep it in situ, but eventually decided to go for another one. And we had to be creative to keep the Statue of Liberation in town, in situ. So in 1991, the statue has been covered with a white blanket that even featured 2 holes, making sure that she will be able to look out from under the blanket whenever she fancied. So for 3 days and 4 nights, we had the ghost of communism flying over the city. And on the 4th day, the Statue of Liberation was reborn as the Statue of Liberty. That still sort of rules the skyline of Budapest. And as I've mentioned, it's the cleaning of the statue is progressing quite nicely. Later this year, latest 2026, because in Hungary we don't talk about deadlines because we are loosely connected to deadlines, the Statue of Liberty will once again be able to welcome visitors. And well, I've mentioned to you that this cruise is scheduled to take 40-45 minutes. Apparently, we are not just loosely connected to deadlines when it comes to construction works in Hungary, but even when it comes to scheduled cruises. So we are about 10 minutes late. So bear with me. We are heading back towards the House of Parliament building. So if you haven't been able to take a screenshot of the House of Parliament building yet, you will have another chance to do so. Susan, you're absolutely right. In many countries, as soon as it comes to government projects, the deadlines are guidelines. In Hungary, the situation is a little bit more complicated because these reconstruction works start with a archaeological excavation as well, and that may take a day, that may take 2 years, depending how deep archaeologists dig. And also the finish line of these projects may get amended along the way. So that's why, for example, I can not tell you what kind of museum the Upper Castle, the Citadel, will host as of from late 2025 or 2026, because the plan may get amended along the way. But what I can tell you now is that the ramps reconstruction, the eastern ramps reconstruction running up to the former royal palace has been completed. So should you join me on a future virtual walking tour in the Buda Castle quarter that I will title the Transforming Buda Castle Quarter, you can get the most recent updates. And we are closing in on the chain bridge. So you can get a wonderful screenshot from the middle of the river of the iconic chain bridge that was first opened to the public in 1849, making it the first place in the former Habsburg Empire where everyone were equal, everyone were due to the same tolls, regardless of what their family background was, whether if they had blue blood or red blood. On the Buda side, soon the castle tunnel will come into view. The castle tunnel was built in 9 years after the chain bridge has been completed and open to the public. The idea behind the construction of the castle tunnel was to ease the way to the chain bridge, to connect the Buda side to the chain bridge. It was designed by Adam Clark, who was the on-site project manager of the chain bridge. So once again, the magnificent views of the chain bridge. Unfortunately, just like every other bridges within the boundaries of Budapest, the chain bridge as well has been blown up by the retreating German army during the Second World War. The chain bridge was the first to be rebuilt after the war, was reopened to the public in 1949 for its 100th anniversary. It was reopened to the public a second time. Indeed, indeed. Cynthia, we all have to mind our heads. But today, lucky us, the Danube is not flooding, so there was still a bit of a gap between our heads and the chain bridge. So what has changed during the previous months in terms of the skyline of Budapest is that the formal Department of Foreign Affairs facade has been completed, and now it's been lit up as well, just like Hild's Villa, which is right in front of it. And it was turned into a fine dining restaurant where you can easily spend 1 month of salary for a single meal. And right next to the crane, the dome of the Department of Defenses, or the well, DOD. Let's put it this way. It's getting closer and closer to its final completion as well. And as I told you that we'll have a view of the House of Parliament building as well. Well, let me change from west to east. And right ahead of us, we are narrowing down on the House of Parliament building once again. So as we only have a few minutes left of our cruise, thank you very much for all of you for joining this tour. Thank you very much for reconnecting with me. Oh, the winds are getting a little bit too strong for my gimbal. We started with a small breeze and we finished with heavy winds. So, well, if you like this tour, you can contribute to this tour. All my tours are crowd-funded. If you would like further live virtual tours from various corners of Budapest, or even from various corners of the Hungarian countryside, then kindly consider chipping in through my Buy Me a Coffee account, where we can buy coffee, 1 or 2 coffees using your credit or debit card as well. And since we are a little bit late, it may happen that by the time we reach our port of call, the House of Parliament building's facade will be lit up as well. In order to get all the updates, I invite you to join my Facebook group, Captivating Hungary Through Adam's Eyes. You can also follow my business platforms as well. My project is called Behind Budapest. Same name on Instagram, same name on Facebook, and we even have a Twitter, TikTok account. Well, the bridges are already been lit up. The House of Parliament's lights are like I said, the winds are strong. The House of Parliament's lights are being turned on as well. But it's something that we'll see the next time when we cruise, because as we are about to drop anchor, I have to conclude our virtual tour. As I'm the only passenger on board, well, they need me to exit as fast as possible so the crew can finish their day and they can go home for some well-deserved rest. So once again, thank you very much for joining. See you rather soon. Like I said, if you can, please chip in by buying a coffee or 2. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy.